Hello and welcome into the Birds of the Roundtable for an NFC Championship game preview. The Eagles get the W in the snow over the Rams. Now they get to play host to the Washington Commanders in a potential revenge game. I am your host, Shane Haff. Give me a follow on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL. Joined by the whole crew. Up first, we've got Dives. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Dives, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, man. A win's a win. Surviving in advance. There was some greatness on the field last weekend that I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, guys, that we're running a little late tonight. We were talking and forgot we weren't live. So, I mean, we could even see the comments over here, throw them up on the screen and talk to you guys. And we just never clicked go live. But also joined by David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. David, how you doing?
Doing great, man. We're talking about the Eagles playing in their 8th and hosting their NFL league leading 6th championship game since the millennium. It's unbelievable. Hosting 6 since 2000. I mean, that's just unreal. Participating in 8, looking forward to it. I am expecting a big game from everybody involved on Sunday. We're going to have fun breaking it down over the course of the show.
All right. We are also joined by Ryan. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan is flying high tonight off the back of a Kenny Gainwell fumble recovery, 71 return yards, 2 touches on offense, both for first downs. Your boy Kenny Gainwell had himself a game on Sunday. Ryan, how you doing?
Oh wow, yeah, I love that's the first thing I run into is Kenny Gainwell's 2 offensive stats that gains first yards. And then is that even considered a fumble recovery?
Absolutely. It was a fumble that he recovered.
Yeah, well, regardless.
The literal definition of a fumble.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm talking to Dives right now.
Fumble recovery, you get credit for a fumble recovery when it is a turn over, when it's an actual turnover. Not when you recover your own team's fumble.
No, it counts as because it's a fumble loss for Jalen. Somebody's got to recover it, whether it be offense or defense.
I will agree to disagree, but regardless, I'm not sure where I was supposed to be, Brandon. Sunday, were all 3 of you on the post game?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I was busy getting snowed on.
Yeah.
At the game, so.
You sound like Dives right now. Like, I don't really watch the rest of the NFL. Is that actually a fumble recovery? Is that how that works? No.
I can't wait to hear Ryan down talk like a Kenny Gainwell touchdown. But is it really a touchdown? Like,
no, okay. Well, but when was the last time Kenny Gainwell scored a touchdown? It's been a long time since y'all started chirping. Kenny doesn't get in the end zone. So
the last home championship game.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
There you go.
That's all.
All right. Well, let's dive into it. The Eagles get the victory. It got a little closer than it got a little close there at the end.
Yes.
Saquon Barkley hits that 78-yard touchdown run. The Eagles had a 99% win probability. And it came down to a red zone stop at the end. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous there. I was more than a little nervous. I had people on Twitter tweeting at me that were like, thanks for the coverage this year. We'll see you next year.
Oh, wow.
And the Eagles pulled it off. Jalen Carter gets the sack, and the Eagles hold on to win 28-22. Like we always do, we're going to break this game down. We'll preview the next game as well. Let's start with our offensive takeaways. David, give me your offensive takeaway from this one.
It's that Saquon Barkley is unstoppable. He had 2 explosive touchdown runs versus the Rams during the regular season, and he added 2 more on Sunday. He ran a 62-yarder in the first half and added that 78-yarder that we're talking about just then. I love listening to everybody always discuss their plan for stopping it. You had Jared Verse running his mouth all week. Rams kept talking about how they had a plan to stop Barkley. No player in the NFL had ever run for 200 yards against the team during the regular season and followed it up with 65 or more yards in the postseason. But no player has ever been Saquon Barkley. So I guess my biggest takeaway was, every team goes into their battle with the Eagles thinking they have a plan to stop Barkley, but I think Mike Tyson stated it best. Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face.
Yeah. And honestly, like you can go, and I've seen Saquon had like 2.7 yards per carry if you remove the 2 long touchdown runs, but it's like you can't remove a 78 and a 60 plus yard touchdown run. Like it was not a good day, down in and down out. You go look at rushing success rate. It wasn't great, but you can never underestimate his ability to pop one off for a long touchdown. And it changed the game. It saved the season for the Eagles for sure. So Ryan, I'll throw it to you next. What was your offensive takeaway?
Yeah, this was an ugly game, a sloppy game, and we all knew it. It was a snow game, and I love how, you listen to any JO that does national, sports media talking about the Eagles right now, and they're going, "Oh my God, Jalen Hurts, he's terrible. He did, he only had blah 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 yards, and it's a snow game. Like what world do you live in where you don't recognize what kind of game this is going to be?" And this is exactly how it was supposed to play out. And that's exactly how it did. It was a running game. We weren't going to see a lot of passing. Jalen took his shots. I mean, hell, if A.J. Brown comes, down with that ball and scores that touchdown, I think a lot of people talk a little differently. But regardless, we knew Saquon was going to be the bulk of this offense, and rightfully so. I want to play the Rams every damn game next year. I mean, he'll have the record by, the time we have a bye. So, listen, I love how no matter what the Eagles do on offense, that it can never be enough. And I'm loving it. I love hearing it because all that means is that we're doing something right because we're pissing off every national media member who has their own, viewpoint that they want to prove right about how the Eagles can't do it with Saquon Barkley and our run game. And we're going to prove them wrong every single goddamn time. So that's what I have to say about it.
All right. Dibes, give me your top offensive takeaway. What do you have?
Sean says, hope that Kellen still knows how to call short or intermediate pass plays. That was my take during post game, and that's still my take. That's been my take the last 2 weeks. I'm not a fan of the game plan from Kellen Moore. He's been kind of more of a problem than Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, these postseason. But for me, I'll go positive, of course. Give me Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert these last 2 weeks has been very good. Sorry, Ryan. The Eagles needed every one of those 4 catches for 56 yards yet again this week in the divisional round. That could have been 5 for 75 if that 19-yarder hadn't been called back on the illegal man downfield penalty. He was also wide open on that safety where Jalen Hurts just ate it. He was right there in the middle of the field. I thought Goddard has been terrific. And these last 2 weeks, he's got 10 targets. Jalen Hurts has a QB rating of 124.3 when targeting Dallas Goedert. And I think he's just such an integral part when this offense isn't working. Not a lot of us saw this coming, I think. We saw, Saquon, AJ, Devontae, those are the top 3 on this offense. And Dallas Goedert, man, he's had a really solid return since coming back from his injury. And you look at this, well, we'll get to Washington in a little bit because I think there's a big piece why he could be an X factor in this game. But Dallas Goedert, man, well done.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert, huge part of the lineup when he's able to be healthy. And fortunately, he's healthy right now. And the Eagles are going to need him, especially, that Hurts knee. That's going to be a big thing to keep an eye on that we are going to know nothing about. I don't care what Sirianni, Moore, and Hurts say. We're not going to know anything about it until we actually get to the first quarter of the Commanders game and see what happens. But so all eyes on Jalen's knee. My offensive takeaway is that the Eagles passing offense stinks, and it's mostly Kellen Moore's fault. I was rage tweeting through the offense on Twitter today on the All 22, and it's it's so bad. Like, it's just so bad. And I think Eagles fans are starting to really figure that out, because I think a lot of Eagles fans probably watch the Eagles and don't watch other teams very often. And so you sort of get into your own little Eagles cocoon of like what NFL games look like. And then you watch a Matt LaFleur offense with motion for a purpose and backside routes coming into throwing windows for Jordan Love. And you see a Sean McVay offense that does the same thing for Matthew Stafford. And now there's starting to be a lot of outrage. And it's like, it's so bad. Like, there's so many times that, like, watching the film today, even like the 4th and 4 slant to AJ Brown, which was completed, which was huge. If that slant wasn't open, if the linebacker guessed, hey, they might throw a slant to AJ and jump to that, there's not another route on the field that even remotely has a chance. Everybody else is just jogging vertical routes. Like, there's no secondary options. It's so bad. It's unbelievable that this is what is being installed in an NFL meeting room. I do not get it. I don't get it. And it's got to be fixed. And, we can do the Eagles are 16-3 now, and they're in an NFC Championship game, and that's great. It's because of a really good rushing attack and a really good defense, and the pass game is an active detriment to this game. And I'm not saying that it's all Jalen Hurts. That Kellen Moore's got to be better. AJ Brown's got to be better. AJ Brown with 2 drops in this game that were huge. Obviously, he made a couple plays too, none bigger than that 4th and 4 slant. But the pass game needs to get it together. And, maybe the Eagles can win a Super Bowl playing 2 more games just like the last 2. But maybe they can't. And if they can't, and the Eagles lose a game where they can't put up enough points, we're going to come back to what this passing game has been. And it just hasn't been good enough. There is no way that an Eagles passing attack with their offensive line and with Jalen Hurts and all the weapons at the disposal should be this much of a struggle. And it is. And that's more of a coaching issue than it is a players on the field issue. So Kellen Moore needs to get his stuff figured out, and he needs to do it fast.
Yeah, if I could piggyback on what Ryan said earlier about how the public narrative this week has been just bashing Jalen Hurts all week. He threw for 128 yards and ran for 70. Josh Allen threw for 127 yards and ran for 20. And nobody says anything about it. I just don't get it.
Josh Allen's the GOAT. Come on. What are you talking about? He's the man.
And Jalen Hurts got the party started with a 44-yard run at the beginning by bringing the ball back in. He is so important to the run game. I think that gets lost. And the concepts, like Shane said, as far as the passing game, look at what he's dealing with. Watch all 22. Look at 4 guys who run 10 yards out and just stand there. And what the heck is he supposed to do with the ball? I mean, the sacks. He takes all these sacks. I'll give you the safety. That one was pretty bad. Just chuck the damn thing as far as you could throw it. But the other one in the 4th quarter when he does a rollout, what the hell were you doing? You don't even have the edge blocked, and he just comes up and just levels them. I mean, the concepts have been terrible. He's been doing well despite the offensive game plan, in my opinion.
Low key, I liked that bootleg play call, but Dallas Goedert whiffed the block.
You got to block.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas Goedert whiffed that block. But
but that is not on Jalen Hurts. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just terrible, man. I don't know what people are looking at, but.
You're right. Jalen certainly is needing to make better decisions out there with what he's been given. But you're right. The offensive game plan hasn't been stellar. And listen, I don't know if it's more just going, well, we have 26. Like, who cares what else we do? But, I wanted to jump back on what kind of David was saying. But, like, I just don't understand this idea of, like, why every single team needs to fit into a little box, and why every single offense needs to fit into that same little box. Like this league has been reinvented over and over and over and over again. And to say that, oh, well, this is a passing league, you can't do it with just Saquon Barkley. Well, yeah, you might be able to, because Saquon Barkley is one of the best running backs in the league. The offensive line is one of the best offensive lines in the league. I don't know. I remember the last time that we were talking about best running back, best O-line, and I hate to bring it up, but those 90s Cowboys, that's kind of how they ran. Now, granted, they did have a somewhat of a passing game, but let's be honest, Aikman wasn't that great. For anybody who doesn't remember, it wasn't that good. And he had a star in Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper. It's kind of what we got going on right now. So again, I don't know why people are so dead set on saying that we can't do it this way when it's been done this way. But again, it's been a little while since we've seen it. I just think, yeah, who cares? Who the hell cares? If they, tush push 4 times to get first downs, and that's all they do. I don't care what the hell they do. If they're winning, they're winning. And that's all we need to be concerned about, personally.
If I can still add one other point, the game plan is clearly run Saquon, play great defense, get explosive play from run game instead of pass game, and protect the ball. And it's worked 13 of the last 14 games. The only time it didn't is when Hurts went out with a concussion.
Exactly.
And of the 4 remaining teams, the 4 quarterbacks all have one thing in common. They haven't had any turnovers in the postseason. All 4 of them. Another commonality amongst the 4 teams remaining in the playoffs, they're 1, 2, 3, and 4 in 4th down conversions, which means that they get another down to play with, to move the chains, to keep the possessions going, to keep the clock rolling. And that's been a huge advantage. And they're playing to their strengths. And again, the question will be, what can Jalen do if they come behind? Because they haven't really had to do that. The passing concepts are terrible, coupled with AJ being injured. He's clearly hurt. He's not Superman like we're all used to seeing. But over the past 14 weeks, they haven't had to do that. And spoiler alert, with the way the defense is playing, I don't think they're ever going to get 2 or 3 scores behind where they're going to have to just sit there and throw the ball all afternoon.
Exactly.
Yeah. We had a question pop up earlier that I wanted to go back and answer. Asked whose fault is it? 2 different OCs and the same results. Does Jalen not want to run other stuff? This offense is pretty radically different than it was last year, in my opinion. I've seen a sentiment online, especially today, that this is all Sirianni's fault. Sirianni's meddling in the offense, and I couldn't disagree more. This is a Kellen Moore offense. That they're not attacking vertically down the field when that was the only focus last year. There are answers to the blitz, and there weren't last year. They've doubled their motion rate. They're still in shotgun a lot, but they've doubled their usage of non-shotgun snaps. It's the type of spacing, sort of horizontal spread concepts that Kellen Moore likes. I don't think Kellen Moore is a bad offensive coordinator. I just don't know that he's the right offensive coordinator to work with Jalen Hurts if this is the style of offense he wants to run. And to his credit, he's worked with Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert, 2 of the quicker processors in the league. That's not one of Jalen Hurts' strengths, and that's not dumping on Jalen Hurts. He can also do things those guys can't do. Yeah. But there's so many times that the backside concept is like a curl route and an out route, or a hitch route and an out route. Those are both timing routes. Jalen Hurts can't throw a backside timing route. There's 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that can. And so if your offense is going to require a quarterback that can do that, then you got to pick, because Moore and Hurts can't work together. If that's the case, they need to have these routes on the backs, run some drags, run some digs, run some posts, run a vertical route, and say, if what we're looking at's not open, hop to the backside and just throw a vertical ball. They're not giving him anything on the backside of concepts to work. And that's my biggest issue. So when people want to play it's Sirianni meddling, I think it's a radically different offense. And I think it still does not play to the strengths of Hurts in the pass game. Now, it's utilized him in the run game really well, but the passing game specifically, which is what everybody's concerned about, I just don't think it's being schemed in a way that would succeed for Hurts.
Yeah. So just this specific comment, do you really care if Kellen and Jalen are a bit mismatched, they're winning games. They have Saquon Barkley. Everybody, all they wanted was to run the damn ball. Well, guess what? We were running the damn ball. And now you want them to pass. There's never going to be a situation that will make everybody happy. Plain and simple. But at the end of the day, what is the one stat that matters more than any other stat?
W's.
There we go.
That's not what I'm not arguing.
I know you're not.
And I'm not saying,
I wanted to kind of just side note off of that is listen, yeah, they may not be a good match, but right now it's working. And
at the end of the day, they drop back to pass 27 times though. So on those 27 times that you pass, I need a better plan. And if Moore's not willing to adapt that plan, that's a problem. And we can throw out like Josh Allen threw for 1 less yard than Jalen Hurts. The big issue there is the sacks. Josh Allen took 1 sack for 1 yard. Hurts took 7 sacks for 63 yards. And this is generalizing too much, but EPA data basically suggests that 2 sacks is roughly equivalent to an interception in terms of expected point value. So the sacks are a problem. And that circles back to a lot of times when that primary read's not there, there's nothing else there for Hurts to work to. And Hurts is at fault for that in some point. The safety, Goddard's right there. There's other times there's just nothing there. And so that's my big frustration with the passing game. I'm not saying that I need the Eagles to have the number 1 passing attack. I'm just saying as one of the most run-heavy teams in the NFL, they still drop back 27 times in a snow game. So let's have a better plan when we do it.
Sure.
My problem with the offense is we know it works. Like we've seen it in bits and pieces and small bits and pieces, but we know it works. Like, where's this Kellen Moore offense with the pistol? Well, why aren't we using Gainwell or Saquon more in the pass game? Why aren't we using 2 running backs when we should? Why aren't we running more under center with a fullback when we've seen it work extremely effectively? Like, I'm lost.
This is great. Q just made me laugh. Saw him put in the chat here that we should swap Kellen Moore for that Ohio State offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's up and coming. I hear he's pretty good.
All right. Well, let's talk defense, or we're going to be on here for a 2-hour show. And
can I end the offense on a positive note?
Yeah.
Reuben Franks had a great stat today. Jalen Hurts has thrown 178 passes without an interception in the postseason, which is the 3rd longest streak in NFL history. So if we can complain about everything else, but he is protecting the damn ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Also really smart on that bootleg that we mentioned, that ill-fated bootleg that he just went down instead of throwing the ball away, because he could have thrown the ball away, but it would have stopped the clock. But anyways, all right, let's roll over to the defensive side of the ball. Dibes, I'll throw it to you first. What was your defensive takeaway?
I get the layup. All right.
No, wait. Who wants Jalen Carter before I throw it to Dibes?
Man, we can watch like those Saquon Barkley highlights and smile, but I'm still geeking out over the Jalen Carter sack at the end of that 4th quarter. That was some of the awesome moments of this regular season. That will be a top 5 play for sure. But Jalen Carter having his moment. He had his moment on Sunday. The forced fumble, the sag, everything. He was all over the place. Even that last play in the 4th quarter, he was right in Matthew Stafford's face. Yeah. And it was a moment we've been waiting for. We're witnessing the legend of Jalen Carter begin here. And I think that was his best moment of the season. I can't wait to see what happens this weekend. And Ryan's going to deep dive into that in just a little bit because it favors the Philadelphia Eagles for sure. I mean, pretty much every single matchup against Jalen Carter favors Philadelphia. But I was just so excited, man. Like he even got a holding call for once. It was a phenomenal performance from Jalen Carter. And I don't even know what else to say anymore. Like, it's like him and Zach Bond, like we have been basically like a broken record every single week on this show. What a season he has put together. And he's on the field all the time. He's on the field all the time, making impact play after impact play, getting double teamed all the freaking time, getting held all the freaking time, and it doesn't matter. And I just want to say thank you to the Rams for I believe they left him one-on-one on those final 2 snaps. So appreciate it.
Actually, it's even better than that.
Oh boy.
Two plays before the sack, they ran a stunt where he like ran into the center and they looped somebody behind him. I think it was Moro Ojimo. And so on the sack, he like faked like he was running that stunt, and he got the guy to swivel his head over. And then instead of continuing, he just like darted through the gap. He did the same thing on the 4th down play, and the guy fell for it both times. So it was great. It was awesome. All right, Ryan, I'll throw it to you. Give me your defensive takeaway.
Listen, somebody actually mentioned it in the chat, and I'm going to go with Isaiah Rodgers, who stepped up for our boy Mitchell being out for most of the game with a shoulder injury. Seems like he should be good to go for next week, at least according to him. So let's hope that is the case. But Isaiah Rodgers, certainly got thrown in to the fire against, again, a very good set of wide receivers there for the Rams. And I think he held his own. He obviously, had that fumble recovery when Kyron Williams, fumbled the ball and returned it almost for a touchdown, although he did let an offensive lineman catch up to him. So there is that. But that's right there, absolutely put us into position to score points. Somebody in the chat. What am I, chopped liver? Oh, well, I'm sorry. Listen, I'm over here. I'm talking. I'm looking quickly over to the right. I just see Isaiah Rodgers. My apologies, Marshawn. I would never, ever, ever do anything to insult you. Don't tell anybody else in the chat, but you're my favorite. Listen, anytime you step in for a player, especially a player who's been playing pretty damn good this entire season and can come in and do a great job. It's certainly was one of the many reasons why this defense held the Rams in check.
All right, David, I'll give it to you next. Give me your top defensive takeaway.
We've talked a lot about Jalen Carter, but I also think this playoffs has been a coming out party for Nolan Smith as well. He has 3 sacks this postseason. He's showing everybody why the Eagles drafted him in the first round. And it also shows you why you should have patience with your edge rushers. They normally do take a year to develop at the NFL level. He had a strip sack that was recovered by Bond in this. He had a TFL. He's been the best pass rusher on the team this postseason from the edge. He defends the run better than any other edge rusher on the team. And also a shout out to the other edge rusher who played 17 very important snaps, and that's Jalix Hunt. Yeah. He had a sack on 3rd and goal to force a field goal by the Rams, which proved to be a very crucial 4 points later in the game because the Rams could have kicked a field goal there at the end of the game for the win due to 2 missed PATs by our friend Jake Elliott. Jalix never stops on plays, man. He was way behind in the play, and then he returned to get the sack on Stafford from behind. His speed and energy has been a big boost for the defense, and it was only fitting that in a season that the Eagles' motto and theme is "Let's Hunt," that Jalix Hunt gets a sack.
Nolan Smith, to your point, David. So this is per Next Gen Stats. He has 10 total pressures in the postseason, which is the 3rd most of any player in the postseason and the most among all remaining defenders. He also has 20 pressures over his last 5 games after having only 20 pressures in his first 31 games. So,
I was just about to say, we have literally, I couldn't remember if it was 5 or 6 games, but we have literally seen Nolan Smith just blossom before our eyes in these past 5 games. Crazy. And it is insane to think of where we were earlier in this season about why the hell did we draft him? Blah, blah, blah. We could have had this guy. do that whole thing. But man, he is coming up clutch in more ways than one, and we already knew our edge was a little weak, coming into this year, and man, has he been the most pleasant of surprises.
Speaking of edge, Huff didn't even get a snap, did he?
Zero snaps.
He maintains his 100% pressure rate in the postseason. One snap, one pressure.
Nice. That'll be a great trivia question one day, Shane.
Yeah, it will be. And I'm going to remember. I won't. Somebody in the chat will remember, though.
Definitely. That is more like it.
My defensive takeaway, Brandon shouted it out here, Oren Burks. There was a lot of consternation about Oren Burks, who had a rough game inserted into the Packers game. And I said that he played well in week 17 and 18. And, of course, those were lower quality teams. And he had some rough moments against the Rams. He also had some good moments. I would have fully expected, and I was a guy saying I think he'll be fine. I expected to notice him in a more negative way, even saying I thought he'd be fine with the way Sean McVay is able to manipulate linebackers and things. I thought he acquitted himself really well. He had a couple plays in run defense where he over pursued a gap or he missed a tackle. He had a play or two on coverage where maybe he didn't get some of the coverage checks correct and left an assignment. But overall, Oren Burks stepped up and played really well. And I was going to combine that with a little talk about Isaiah Rodgers, but Ryan already talked about him quite a bit. And Isaiah Rodgers played pretty well too. I mean, he gave up 2 big catches where he was in good position and got out muscled at the catch point, and those were frustrating. But it was a next man up sort of game for the Eagles. And, Quinyon Mitchell goes down on the first drive. You're already down. You're already down a linebacker. And I thought the 2 guys that stepped in, and Keely Ringo played a few snaps too. They went into dime some. And I thought all of those guys, and that's what you need. That's why you need those guys getting reps during the season, because you're going to need them at some point. And you don't want the first time they're out there to be in the playoffs. So, very valuable reps for Burks at the end of the regular season, and I thought he played well.
Quick question for the group. Moro Jomo got his first sack last weekend. Does his emergence, his pass rush win rate is terrific when he's on the field. A lot of that's because of Jalen Carter and all that. Does his emergence change your take on defensive tackle in the draft?
No. I think it's a position they'll continue to stack.
Yeah,
stack guys.
Whether they have a Jomo as the third guy and they go ahead and add somebody to the mix to replace, a Jomo's role this year. Yeah, they're 100% getting an interior defensive lineman. And you know me, and we just did our first mock draft in a while. I went first round. I went D tackle, so I'm good with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think also if you look at the value of the position in the last 4 years, I'm trying to find the exact stat, but in the last 4 years, the defensive tackle position for the top 10 defensive tackles has increased 69% over the last 4 years of what the value was in 2021 compared to 2024. So that alone is a necessity of why you want to draft a defensive tackle, because it's become an uber premium position now, and losing Milton Williams is very likely just because of how much money he's going to command. And when you have Jalen Carter's extension looming, there is no way in the world they're going to be able to afford two guys like that at the position.
Yeah, we did a mock. Ryan went Walter Nolan, and I went Shmar Stewart, who could play defensive tackle, I think, for the Philadelphia Eagles for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's quickly go players of the game, and then we'll turn the page to next week's matchup. Ryan, give me your player of the game from this one.
My overall player of the game from, I guess it has to be Saquon, right?
Snoquan,
yeah. There you go. Yeah.
All right.
Snoquan
All right.
and the
Saquon,
squall. And the winter
Snoquan
squall.
for Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, David, who is your player of the game?
Sticking with the same guy, I'm going with Nolan Smith, man. The strip sack, the fumble, the pressure. Just he's been an emotional leader on the defense, and to me, this team is not in the same category if it isn't for him on that field this year.
All right. And I will take Jalen Carter for my player of the game for obvious reasons. And then I'll throw it to you, Dives. Who is your player of the game?
Should I just say Dallas Goedert again?
Sure.
I do want to throw a shout out to Darius Slay. He had it rough on Sunday. He had it rough. 16 targets?
Yeah.
He was busy, man.
The most ever in a playoff game since Next Gen Stats started keeping stats. The most targeted defensive back ever. So his old friend Stafford was coming after him, man.
He was. And we saw it coming, and I thought for the most part he held his own.
That's what I wanted to mention.
What?
I forgot because what's his face isn't here. I wanted to call Matt Stafford a bum again. Because guess what? He lost. He's a friggin' bum.
I will say that, through the majority of the game, the Eagles lost every 50-50 ball. The ball was going towards the Rams all the time. I think the Eagles had 3 dropped interceptions. For the most part, I feel like the defense was even better than the stats indicate.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's flip the page now and let's talk about conference championship game. The Eagles play host to the Washington Commanders. There's a lot of revenge narratives, and there's a lot of only team that could take down the top dog narratives, because you got on the AFC side the Bills, who are the only team that beat the Chiefs this year, except for when they rested their starters week 18. Then you have the Commanders traveling to the Eagles, and the Commanders are the only team to beat the Eagles since their bye. And so maybe some nice storylines coming into this game, but let's dive into our top matchups to watch. David, I'll throw it to you first. What's your top matchup to watch in this one?
I went with the Eagles pass rush versus Jaden Daniels. In the loss, Fangio blitzed far too often. They allowed far too many explosive plays, and the defense struggled in the red zone, which was really unusual for them. Up to that point, they had only allowed 48% of those possessions for a touchdown. In that game, they allowed 75% versus the Commanders. They scored on 3 of their 4. They scored touchdowns on 3 of their 4 opportunities in the red zone. And stopping quarterbacks like Jaden, who are twitchy in the pocket and have that type of mobility, continues to be the Achilles heel of the defense, in my opinion. They've struggled with quarterbacks who move around like that all season. But blitzing them, wasn't the answer. Like I said, they did it far too often. That last game, they blitzed them 38% of the time, when they only averaged blitzing QBs 18% of the time during the season. That was just a weird game also, though, because the defense created 5 turnovers, but gave up 36 points. It was just a highly unusual game, but they ended up having 4 sacks on the season against Daniels over the course of the 2 games. In the first game, they had 3. In the loss, he only had 1, despite pressuring him 46 times, which is just insane. So they're going to have to do better. But one thing I want to mention is the way the communication of the line is, because that's going to play a big role in being able to stop him. About 2 years ago, I was on a Zoom call with Nolan Smith, and he was discussing the importance of having his brothers from Georgia with them on the Eagles. And he mentioned how the brotherhood and familiarity of all of those guys, was going to pay big dividends for them. And they had hand signals, and they can yell out the name of games like Clemson, and all of these Georgia players know what they're talking about. They know where to go. They get into position by that. And Nolan was discussing how the guys on the D line, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, they can throw up a hand or, make a gesture, and they know exactly, what's going to happen. And an example of that was on a clip that's kind of going around social media right now. You'll see of Jalen Carter, and he's communicating with Nolan Smith. He puts up his hand and rubs the back of his helmet. And what that told Nolan was that he needed to crash the edge and then move inside to the guard. And you'll notice Jalen loops around both of them, and it ends up being the sack play where Carter deadlifts Matthew Stafford up in the air for the sack. And that's an advantage that they have with the continuity of playing for years together in Georgia. And they didn't have to learn that. They didn't have to build that in Philadelphia. They already have it. And now that you're seeing them all play together, I think you're seeing the results and the benefit of that on the field, like the play I just mentioned.
Yeah, I saw that one. That was a cool example of that. And rush lane integrity for the defensive line is going to be huge. Not to get too far upfield, to stay sound in your gaps and keep Jaden Daniels in the pocket. Push the pocket. Don't give him a lane out. Will definitely be a big thing to watch. Dibes, I'll throw it to you next because yours kind of ties in a little bit. So talk to me about your matchup to watch.
Yeah, it's if there's not one, but one of the weaknesses of the Eagles right now is that interior offensive line, most specifically the pass protection. Like we talked about Jalen Hurts holding on to the ball too long. We talked about Kellen Moore and his struggles with his play calling. But the play of the interior O-line has not been very good these last 2 weeks. We saw Cam Jurgens get beat on the safety. There was time and time again of Mekhi Becton looking lost, especially in pass protection. I think at least 2 of those sacks were on Mekhi Becton. Landon Dickerson, he graded out well, but not to my standards. Shane, you put it out there on Twitter that the interior O-line has allowed 15 pressures and 4 sacks on 58 dropbacks these last 2 playoff games. That's not good enough. So for me, just like David said, the communication just needs to be better. It just needs to be better. And you look at this matchup with the Washington Commanders, Jonathan Allen's a beast, man. And he is back, and he had one of his best games of his career against the Detroit Lions. He had 6 pressures that tied the most in a single game of his since week 11 in 2022. He also had 4 hurries, 2 quarterback hits, a tackle for loss. He had a 25% pass rush win rate. He was the second highest graded player per PFF for the Commanders. And why is that important? Because Jonathan Allen did not play against the Birds during the previous 2 matchups during the regular season. So for me, that interior O-line versus Jonathan Allen, it's all on Jeff Stoutland to clean up the mistakes, get the communication stronger, make it crisper, and Jeff Stoutland we trust.
All right. Ryan, let's flip it over and talk about the same matchup on the other side of the ball. Talk to me about your matchup to watch.
Yeah, it's after one of his most impressive games as a professional, Jalen Carter versus now the Washington interior offensive line with Sam Cosmi tearing an ACL and out for the rest of the playoffs and a good portion of next year, I would assume. Insert Trent Scott, who is been in the league for 7 years and is now getting his 9th career start. His biggest accomplishment, I would say, is that he actually caught Jaden Daniels' first touchdown pass, and a 1-yard touchdown where he was an eligible receiver. Caught a 1-yard TD for Jaden Daniels there. So that'll be something. But now getting back to Jalen Carter, my God, I mean, he is going to have a field day. They are going to have to double team him every single play if they even want a chance at slowing him down slightly. It's basically like going against 1.5 people with Trent Scott. So, and you're right, you don't ever trust somebody with 2 first names. Listen, this guy doesn't have a lot of experience. He's bounced around the league. Pittsburgh, Carolina, I think San Diego or LA Chargers, whenever the hell they switched over. Originally grabbed him as an undrafted free agent out of Grambling, but he is going to have the worst day of his entire life come Sunday with Jalen Carter breathing down his neck for 100% of the plays. I cannot stress how much I'm excited to see Jalen Carter just absolutely. I mean, he made the guy in the Rams look foolish. Man, wait till we see Trent Scott spinning in circles here. So, yeah. Well, I hope that's his backup career there, Marshawn, because he might be needing it after Sunday. So, but yeah, look for. I'm gonna be bold here. I'm gonna say 3 sacks.
Wow.
3 sacks for Jalen Carter.
Wonder whose player of the game will be.
Not Jalen Carter, because I'm going to ask you first and let you steal it.
That's fine. I always got people.
All right. My matchup to watch is the Eagles pass game against the Washington defensive backs. I thought Washington in week 11 did something that I thought I would start to see more teams do to the Eagles, and that didn't really come to fruition, but I think Washington's going to do it again. And that's with the vertical element of the Eagles passing attack not really being there down the stretch. They were having their cornerbacks. They were playing single high so they could stack the box, and they were having their cornerbacks play deep and essentially flat-footed and sit on the outbreaking comeback corner, outbreaking and corner comeback routes, curl routes that the Eagles like to run. And they just weren't getting open. I think you're going to see them do that again. I think you're going to see Washington plays man coverage at the 5th highest rate in the league. And they played man coverage against Jalen Hurts across the 2 games that they matched up at a 40% rate, which was 10% higher than what the rest of the league played against Jalen. And Jalen's been really good against man coverage. But in the playoffs, it's been a struggle. He's gotten man coverage 11 times, only has 3 completions. All of them were to Goddard. A.J. Brown has struggled. I wouldn't be surprised to see Washington play a heavy dose of man coverage, especially if Jalen Hurts doesn't quite have the mobility. And we're not going to know on that until we see it on Sunday. So I think you're going to see a lot of single high man coverage, which is playing with fire because the Eagles have been really good against that throughout the season. But they haven't been very good lately. And so I think that's what you're going to see Washington come out in, and the Eagles need to be able to take advantage of that and get them out of that into whatever their secondary looks going to be. So that's the top thing I'm watching is how the Eagles passing attack is going to handle those Washington defensive backs when they line up that way.
Shout out to Mike Sainristil, man.
He's so good.
Awesome. Yeah, he was one of my favorite players in the draft last year, and it sucks that Washington got him, but it's also great to see him. All the playmaking, ball hawking we saw at Michigan translate from day one here in the NFL.
Yeah, we're playing against like the greatest hits of all the guys I loved in the draft. It was Jared Verse. I loved Jared Verse. Now we got to play against Mike Sainristil. I hate it, but that is life. So here we go. Let's get into our picks of the week. Ryan, I'll throw it to you first. What is your score prediction? You're muted. You automatically lose because you were muted.
Okay.
No.
All right. I'm going to go with 31-21 Birds.
All right. David.
38-17. Excuse me, 38-17.
Love it.
All right.
We're Eagles.
I will also take the Eagles. I've got Eagles 28-24.
That's kind of where I'm also at, Shane. By the way, I missed the score by 1 point last week. 1 point. That's, yeah. I think it's going to be a closer game than people want to say. I do think the Eagles will pull it out. I think this is going to be a classic. I'll go Eagles 24, Commanders 21. I'll take the under.
All right. Over unders, Jaden Daniel rushing yards at 49.5. Give me the over. I think they're going to pull out all the stops with him running the football. So over for me. What about you, David?
Yeah, I think he ran for 81 last time. I think I'll go with the go with the over.
All right, Ryan.
I'm gonna go with the under.
All right, Dibes.
Over.
Okay. Over under sacks allowed by the Eagles, 3.5, Dibes.
I'm gonna go over.
All right, Ryan.
Yeah, I guess I'll go over.
All right, David.
I think when Jalen Hurts played, they only got to him twice, so I'm going to roll with that. I'm going under.
I will also take the under. I'm hoping and praying that coaches will see the same thing I saw and be like, hey, we should get the ball out faster. Over under Commanders turnovers at 2.5. Give me the under. I don't. 3 turnovers is a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I'll take the under. Ryan.
Same. Yeah, that's a lot to predict. 3 turnovers.
All right, Dibes.
Do it.
I want to. I want
Dude.
to. I mean, that could also be like a turnover on downs. The Washington Commanders go for it a shit ton in that area.
That doesn't count as a turnover.
How is that not as a turnover on downs? What else would you call it?
Turnover.
Boy, I feel like we should harken back to the beginning of our episode where we argued
Lord.
whether or not a fumble recovery, and
We've come full circle.
we've come full circle, baby.
That'd be like saying we're going to count a punt as a turnover.
No, it's not.
I mean, it literally is called a turnover on downs.
It's
Guys in the chat,
it's
is
not
it-
in the stats. It doesn't
It's
count
not.
as
It's
a
not a
turnover.
turnover. It's not
No.
a turnover in stats.
It's not really.
No.
No.
Well, that I knew. Yeah.
All right. So are we counting it or not counting it?
No.
That's BS. That
Fumbles and
I disagree
interceptions.
with this wholeheartedly.
Well, your argument, my friend, is with NFL stat keeping, not me. I will admit it is dumb. It's called a turnover on downs, but it's not a turnover. But
because that's where I think Washington's going to try and beat the Eagles. 3rd down conversions, short 3rd downs, and go for it on 4th and keep the ball away from the Eagles. I'll go under then.
okay. All right. Over under rushing yards from Robinson and Eckler combined at 79.5. Give me the under.
I'm going to go over on the turnovers, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Did I forget to throw that to you?
Yeah.
My bad.
They got 5 in a loss, so they're gonna get more than 2 in a win.
All right. Well, while we're with you here, 79.5 combined rushing yards from Robinson and Eckler. What do you have?
Under.
All right. So David and I both have the under. What about you, Ryan?
Under.
And Dibes?
I'm going to go slight over.
All right. Terry McLaurin receiving yards, 69.5. Dibes.
This is a hard one. I'm going to go over.
All right. Ryan?
Yeah, this one's tough. What did he have? 60 and
Nothing.
10. Yeah, so I'll go under. Screw it.
All right. I got the over. David, what about you?
I think Quignon's fine, and I think he will lock him up again. I think it's personal, and he will be held under.
Nice.
All right. Over under Saquon Barkley rushing yards, 159.5. David.
I'm going to say under, but not by much. But I'm just going to go around 140, so I got to say under.
You know, he had 150 last time, and that was with Jalen Hurts out.
100 of those were in the first quarter with Jalen, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Jahmyr Gibbs had 105 yards on 14 carries for the Lions, and the Lions went away from the run. The Eagles aren't going to do that. Give me the over.
Yep.
All right, Ryan. Over under 159.5.
Freaking super over. He breaks the all-time rushing in a season record against the Commanders.
What does he need for that? I can't remember now.
I think it's 170 something.
140 something, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's 148, 149.
Well, either way, then
I know he needed to average 118 a game, and he ended up with 205 in the last game. So he needs 149 yards. All right, Dives, what do you have? 159.5.
Oh my God. Just like you said, Shane, you stole my stats. It is so over. He's going to get like probably near 200 again.
All right. Dallas got it receiving yards. Over under 54.5, Dives.
Gosh, give me the over. And like, I never would have said that at that
a month ago.
At this point, like he is the safety valve right now. And I got to say, given AJ Brown's injury and Kellen Moore's horrible play calling, but Goddard's getting open and he's making big plays. That continues against the Commanders. And by the way, the Commanders are very susceptible in the second level. They are very susceptible against players who can get yards after contact and things like that. So I think this is a big Dallas Goddard game.
All right. Ryan, what about you?
Begrudgingly over.
I'll also take the over. What do you have, David?
Yeah, I went over as well. I think he'll end up in the 60s, but yeah, he'll over.
They miss a lot of tackles in that second level. They miss a lot. You can get Goddard on those crossers. For the love of God, Kellen Moore, please get it done. He could be stiffing. He could have a few stiffies this weekend.
Whoa.
That's terrible.
Whoa.
All right.
Over.
That is not how you say that.
Somebody needs to put that on a loop, please.
Yeah.
All right. Over, under, Frankie Louvu headshot. Oh, wait, that's not what that says.
Always
over, under, Jake Elliott missed kicks, 0.5. So will Jake Elliott miss a kick? He's only been perfect in 2 of the last 7 games. So I will say over. Yes, he will miss more than a half of a kick. What do you have, Dibes?
What did we do? I was the only one that said over last week.
No, I said it too.
Did you?
Yeah, it was right there in green.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. All right. Hold on. You went over. I'm going to go over. I don't know what it is about that left area of the field that he just can't kick from, but they got to figure it out. They have to figure it out. Give me, but it's not good. They're not going to. So give me the over.
All right, Ryan.
I believe in my man Jake. I'm going under. I have faith that he will.
As in, like under the crossbar?
No, as in he'll get under and miss kicks. No, that's one thing. That's one problem he doesn't have. That's for sure. But no, listen, he'll figure it out. I don't care. I don't care if his wife has to, be extra nice to him all week. You know what I mean? Wink, wink. But somebody's got to relieve some stress on that man, and he'll be fine.
All right, David, what do you have?
A couple of sniffies, right, Debs?
Yeah, within 10 seconds, Dibe said stiffies and Shane said headshot. It's the craziest 10 seconds in Birds of the Round Table history. I'm going under. Under.
That's right, baby. David and I, we're always together. Right.
I mean, you're not always together, or he wouldn't have 11 more picks right than you. But
no, also very true. but at least my man's coming to the tailgate this week. And showing
Birds of the Round Table presented by Viagra next week for stiffies.
There you go. Yeah. Hey, let's get that ad money.
All right, yeah, no free ads. All right, let's get out of here before we lose all of our viewership for future weeks. I'll throw it around the horn here. You guys, for final thoughts, you can plug anything you've got coming out. David, start us off, man.
You can follow everything I do at PHL Eagle News or go to phillysportsnetwork.com. I will see all of you next week where we will be finally talking about the Super Bowl. This is what this whole season has been building up for the whole year. I never thought that they would not be in this position. I thought this is how it was going to be the entire season. We're finally getting there. So I am looking forward to a smackdown of the Commanders. I've wanted this matchup. I wanted this matchup in the wild card round. I think the Eagles want this matchup. I think they want to play them. They're sick of listening to them chirp for the last 6 weeks. And I cannot wait to watch it on Sunday and then talk to you guys about it Tuesday night. Go Birds.
All right. Ryan, what about you, man? Plug your stuff. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to allot my time to plugging my stuff. I'm going to give all that to Dibes, since we do pretty much everything else together. And I'm going to spend and focus my time on one Mr. Brian Pumper, who has finally graced us, missing the first half, the most important of this show, where I was proven correct about old man Stafford sucking hardcore and being a bum. So I'll wait. But I'd like to hear the apology, sir. Anytime you're ready. Come on. You got a couple of minutes before we're off the air. I'll wait. I'll wait, buddy.
All right.
What are you, Dives?
All right, Dives, you're up.
We'll be doing Party on Broad this Thursday night. We have a Commanders content creator joining us. I've been on the show many times. He's amazing. He has his own Commanders channel, so be on the lookout for that. I am done with the defense in my positional top 10 rankings. Go check that out. A lot of fun group working on my final positional ranking, which is offensive line. I'll have that out this week at some point. I don't know when, but be on the lookout for that. Of course, all the shorts. I've been putting out Eagles draft target shorts as well every day at noon. Check that out. So if you love the Eagles, check out Party on Broad.
All right. Be sure you're following these guys on social media. Following the Eagles Pin Pull Network. Tomorrow, Johnny and I will be doing our film breakdown, so you can check out some of the film stuff. There'll be Eye on the Enemy later this week. There's going to be a Kelly Green Hour preview at the end of the week. Johnny and I are going to be doing a preview in our Patreon. If you're interested in that, you can come check out kind of a schematic preview of the Washington Commander football team, Commanders, whatever they are. But be sure you're following these guys on social media. David is at PHL Eagle News. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. I am at Shane Half NFL, and we will catch you guys next time.